If I'm honest with you, my friend, there is a moment in every avoidant person's life where the walls they built to survive become the walls that bury them. And I want you to see this because if you've been on the other side of that person, if you loved them, if you gave them the softest, most patient version of yourself and watched them go cold anyway, you need to understand what actually happens inside them after you're gone. Not the fantasy, not the revenge story, the real thing. Listen, I've worked with millions of humans over 4 decades. I've sat across from CEOs who couldn't cry, veterans who couldn't sleep, mothers who couldn't feel, men who left the only woman who ever truly saw them, and then spent the next 10 years pretending they were fine. And what I've learned is this: the avoidant doesn't feel less than you. The avoidant feels more than you. They just built a system to not feel it. And systems, my friend, always break. Every single one of them. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when the bill comes due. So let me tell you what happens at the breaking point, because that's what you're really asking about. You're not asking about their attachment style. You're asking, does it ever land for them? Do they ever wake up? Do they ever realize what they walked away from? And the honest answer from somebody who has watched this pattern in thousands of human beings is yes. But not the way you think, not on your timeline, and almost never in a way that gives you what you deserve. Here's the truth. We don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. There's a million things happening at once in this room right now, and most of them you'll never notice. The avoidant survives by focusing on threat, on exit, on the door, on the reasons this can't work, on the tiny flaw that lets them justify the retreat. They don't focus on your laugh. They don't focus on the way you remembered their coffee order. They don't focus on the night you held them through a panic they never told anyone else about. Those moments are recorded, but they are filed under a cabinet marked "Do Not Open," because opening it means feeling, and feeling means the whole story they've told themselves about being fine, about being self-sufficient, about not needing anyone. The whole thing collapses. But here's the thing. The cabinet doesn't stay closed forever. It can't. Because you can distort reality. You can delete what you don't want to see. You can generalize a whole person into a threat category so you can walk away clean. Distortion, deletion, generalization, those are the 3 tricks the avoidant mind runs 1,000 times a day to keep the pain contained. But the mind is not a vault. The mind is a pressure cooker. And pressure, my friend, always finds a way out. So what's behind the story they told themselves about you? It's their state. Their mental, their emotional state. When they were with you, their state was activated in a way they had never trained themselves to hold. Real love does that. Real intimacy does that. It floods the nervous system of somebody who learned as a child that love means loss, that softness means danger, that being seen means being hurt. And in that flood, they made a decision, not a conscious one, a survival one. They chose the familiar ache of being alone over the unfamiliar terror of being fully known. That is the whole avoidant playbook in one sentence. They chose the pain they understood over the joy they didn't. There's 3 decisions you make every moment of your life, and this is the spine of everything I'm about to tell you. So I want you to hold this with me. The first decision is what you're going to focus on. The second decision is what it means. The third decision is what you're going to do because of that meaning. Focus, meaning, action. That's it. That's the whole architecture of a human life. And when the avoidant was with you, they focused on the risk, not the reward. They gave the relationship the meaning of threat, not the meaning of home. And so their action was retreat, cold texts, long silences, the slow, cruel fade, or maybe the sudden bomb. Either way, the mechanism was the same. Focus on danger. Meaning is trap. Action is escape. Now let me be honest with you. When they leave, they feel relief for about 72 hours. Sometimes a week. Sometimes a month if they're really good at running. The nervous system exhales. The threat is neutralized. They tell their friends they're finally free. They download the app. They post the picture. They convince themselves you were the problem. And you, on your side of the world, are on the floor. You are questioning your worth. You are rewriting every conversation. You are wondering what you missed. And this is the cruelest part of the pattern, because their relief comes at the exact moment of your collapse. They get to breathe while you can't. It feels unfair because it is unfair. But it is not permanent. And that is what nobody tells you. Here's what I know. The breaking point for the avoidant is not the moment you leave. It's the moment they realize you're not coming back. There is a canyon of difference between those two things. When you leave, they still have the fantasy. They still have the safety net. They still believe, somewhere underneath the story, that if it ever got bad enough, they could reach out and you would answer. You would answer because you always answered. You would forgive because you always forgave. You would soften because that's who you were with them. And so your absence feels temporary to them, like a door they can walk back through when the ache gets loud enough. That's not real leaving. That's just distance. And distance they can survive. Distance they're actually comfortable in. Distance is their native language. But the day comes, and I've seen it in the eyes of men and women, in my seminars, in my private sessions, in the middle of the night, when they finally break. The day comes when they reach for the door in their mind, and the door isn't there anymore. You have built a life without them. You have laughed without them. You have healed without them. Somebody else has seen the parts of you they used to see. Somebody else is being trusted with the softness they threw away. And in that moment, and this is the moment, my friend, this is the actual breaking point, the whole architecture of their defense collapses in on itself. Because the story they told themselves was that they left you, and now the truth is standing in front of them, and the truth is that you left them. Fully, finally, in a way they cannot undo. It's not closure. It's not virtue signaling. It's what they know inside their soul is true. And when that truth lands, three things happen at once, and I've watched this in enough people that I can tell you the sequence almost like a physical law. First, the memories come back, not the ones they cataloged, but the ones they deleted. The way you looked at them the morning they got the bad news, the specific weight of your hand on their chest, the joke only the two of you understood, the version of themselves they only ever were around you. All of it floods back in, unfiltered, unmanaged, with no distortion left to soften it. And they finally see what they had, not as an idea, as a fact. Second, the story flips. The story used to be, I had to leave to protect myself. The new story is, I destroyed the one person who ever actually saw me, because I was too scared to be seen. That is a very different sentence to live inside. That is not a sentence you get to put down. That is the sentence that sits with them at 3 a.m, when the new person is asleep next to them, and they realize the new person doesn't know their real laugh, doesn't know the childhood story, doesn't know the shape of their real fear. And they're lying there and they understand, with a clarity they cannot escape, that they traded the real thing for the safe thing, and the safe thing is not actually safe. The safe thing is just quieter. There is a profound difference. Silence is not peace when it's the silence of a soul that abandoned itself. Third, and this is the part that will make you feel something you might not have expected, grief. Not for you, not exactly. Grief for the version of themselves they could have become if they had stayed. Because here's what I know. Every relationship is an invitation to become somebody bigger. And when the avoidant runs, they don't just lose you. They lose the version of themselves that only you could have called forward. That version is dead. That version was in your hands, and they never came to pick it up. And now it's gone. And no new partner, no matter how kind, no matter how patient, can resurrect it. Because that version was specific to you. That was the you and them version. And they killed it. With their own hands. With their own silence. Now let me say that again, because I want it to land. They don't just grieve you. They grieve who they could have been with you. And that grief is unlike any grief a person can carry, because there's no funeral for it. There's no acknowledgement. There's no ceremony. It's a private, silent, unwitnessed loss that sits underneath every subsequent relationship for the rest of their life. And this is what nobody tells you when you're on the floor. You think they walked away untouched. They didn't. They walked away carrying something they will never put down. But here's where I have to be careful with you, because I love you and I don't want you sitting in a fantasy that damages you. Their breaking point is not your reunion. Let me say that again. Their breaking point is not your reunion. It is not a script that ends with them driving to your door in the rain. Most of the time, the breaking point arrives too late, and it arrives silently, and it arrives while you are already in a life that has moved past them. That's the truth. That's what I've seen 1,000 times, and here's what I want you to see. You waiting for their breaking point is the same trap they were in. It's you focusing on what you cannot control. It's you giving your energy to the door instead of your own life. If you focus on what you can't control, your energy goes there. If you control what you focus on, you control your life. Both worlds exist. The external, them, their timeline, their eventual awakening, you can only influence. The internal, your focus, your meaning, your next action, you can control absolutely. And every day you spend focused on their breaking point is a day you are not building the you that comes next. I want to tell you something about me. I began with anger. That was the fuel that got me out of the trailer, out of the poverty, out of the shame I grew up soaking in. Anger works. Anger will move you, but anger doesn't last. And more importantly, anger doesn't build. There came a day when I had to trade the push for the pull. When I had to stop running from who I was and start running toward who I could be. And I'll tell you something else. I had no one in my corner for a long time. I figured out I had to be the corner. And that lesson, that you are the corner, is the lesson every person who has been abandoned by an avoidant partner eventually has to learn. Because here's the thing about pain. Pain is fuel until it isn't. And if you sit in the pain of what they did to you for too long, you burn the engine. You don't get to the destination. You just sit in the driveway with the engine screaming and the tank empty and the neighbors watching. At some point, my friend, you have to shift from push to pull, from what they did to what you're going to build. And I want you to hold this with me, because this is where it gets tender. If you were the one who loved deeply, if you were the one who stayed patient, if you were the one who kept softening in the face of coldness, that isn't a weakness. That is a rare capacity. Most humans don't have it. Most humans protect first, love second. You loved first. That doesn't make you a fool. That makes you somebody who was operating at a level the other person could not meet. And what happens when somebody operates at a level another person cannot meet? The other person runs. Not because you were too much, because they were not yet enough. It's not ability, it's motive. Their motive was safety. Yours was intimacy. Two different games. You can't win a game the other person refused to play. And here's the piece I want you to sit with. If you suffered as a kid, if you learned early that love had to be earned, that people leave, that you had to be good enough to be kept, you might still be carrying that. And what you experienced with the avoidant person didn't just break your adult heart. It cracked open the child version of you who had been waiting for proof that the original wound was true. That's why this hurts more than a breakup should. That's why you can't sleep. That's why the smallest reminder of them puts you on the floor. Because it's not just them. It's every version of leaving you've ever known, stacked on top of this one. But here's what happens when you meet who you are now and look back at that kid. The very thing you thought was your wound is actually your training. The fact that you learned to love without being loved back means you have a capacity for love most humans will never develop. The fact that you kept trying with somebody who couldn't meet you means you have a resilience that will outlast every avoidant partner on the planet. The fact that you stayed soft in a hard situation means you know something about the human heart that people who never got hurt will never know. It's been a handbook of survival in disguise. What broke you built you, and what they walked away from is a person more powerful than the person they met. Now, what does that mean to you? It means you don't have to wait for their breaking point to have your own becoming. Their awakening is not the door to your healing. Your healing is the door to your healing. And here's the beautiful, unfair, freeing truth. Your healing will probably arrive long before their breaking point does, because you are already doing the work, and they are still running. I want to give you a drill, something small, something you can do today in the next 24 hours, in under 90 seconds. It's non-negotiable. Are you with me? Here it is. You're going to sit down. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to picture the version of you that exists 5 years from now. After all of this, after the tears, after the healing, after the new life you haven't built yet, you're going to see that person clearly. What they wear, how they stand, who they love, what they've become. And you're going to ask that version of you one question, just one. What would you want me to focus on right now? And then you're going to listen. And whatever answer comes, trust it. Write it down. Do that thing today. Because I promise you, that future version of you does not want you focused on their breaking point. That future version wants you focused on your own becoming. That future version knows something you don't yet know, that everything you're going through right now is the raw material for the person you're about to be. Life happens for you, not to you. Even this, especially this. And here's what I want you to understand about the avoidant person and their eventual breaking point. It's not your job. Let me say that again. It is not your job. It is not your assignment. It is not your responsibility. Their awakening is between them and their own soul. Your assignment is different. Your assignment is to become so full yourself that you are unrecognizable to the version of you they knew, not out of revenge, out of respect, for the pain they caused, for the time they took, for the softness they wasted. You honor what you went through by refusing to stay the person who could be treated like that. And here's the thing. When their breaking point does come, and it will come, my friend, I've seen it too many times to promise you anything else. You may not even hear about it. You may be somewhere else in your life. You may be laughing with somebody who actually shows up. You may be building something that has nothing to do with them. And they will be sitting in a quiet apartment at 2 a.m, realizing what they let go of, and they will not call you. Because part of the breaking point is finally understanding they don't deserve to. And even if they do call, you may look at the phone and feel nothing. Not anger, not longing, just a quiet, distant recognition. Like remembering a movie you saw once a long time ago that used to make you cry. That's not coldness, that's healing. There is a profound difference between the two. Coldness is armor. Healing is elevation. When you stop feeling the pull towards somebody who hurt you, it is not because your heart closed. It is because your heart grew larger than the wound. That is what freedom actually looks like. Not indifference. Elevation. Quality of life is the quality of your emotions. And the emotion of somebody who has healed from an avoidant partner is not bitterness. It's gratitude. Weird, uncomfortable, hard-won gratitude. Because that person, as much as they hurt you, taught you the exact boundary of what you will never accept again. They taught you the price of loving somebody who won't show up. They taught you to recognize the coldness earlier. They taught you that your softness needs to be given to somebody who will meet it, not manage it. That is a gift, even though it came wrapped in the ugliest paper. And here's what I know. You can't lose what you deserve. What is meant for you cannot be taken by somebody who chose fear. What is meant for you does not require you to shrink, chase, decode, or beg. What is meant for you meets you at your level or grows to meet you there. The avoidant person did not meet you at your level. That is a fact. And no breaking point on their end changes the fact that they were not, at that time, capable of loving you the way you deserve to be loved. Their eventual realization does not retroactively make them the right partner. It only makes them a person who finally saw what they had. Seeing is not the same as being able to hold. Two different capacities. So let me leave you with this, because I want you to walk away from this with something you can carry. The person who broke your heart will one day realize what they did. That is nearly certain. The mind cannot indefinitely distort a love that real. The cabinet always opens. The pressure always finds an exit. And when it does, they will sit with a grief that no future partner can fix. Because the grief is not just about you. It is about the self they abandoned when they abandoned you. That is their journey. That is their hero's journey, if they choose to take it. Some do, some don't. Either way, it is not your business anymore. Your business is you, your focus, your meaning, your action, your becoming. The next version of you is not built out of their apology. The next version of you is built out of your decision, made right now, in this exact moment, to stop waiting at a door somebody else keeps closing. Turn around. There is an entire life behind you, and you have been facing the wrong direction. Turn around, my friend. The horizon is on the other side. You don't experience life. You experience the life you focus on. So focus somewhere else. Focus on the you that gets to be loved back. Focus on the you that stops explaining. Focus on the you that becomes so full of your own life that their eventual breaking point becomes a footnote in a book you already finished writing. The hero's journey doesn't end when they realize what they lost. It continues in the life you build after you stopped waiting for them to realize it. You owe it to you to become who you really are, not who they left, who you were always going to be. With them, without them, either way, that was never their decision to make. That was always yours, and it still is, now. Decide,